What's up, everyone? Sisu team here. We got Hatch Coaching, Cody and Robby. What's up, guys?
Not much. Thanks for having us on.
We're excited to have you. We wanted to schedule this because ISA and ISA teams and that whole appointment setting is such a big topic right now, and these guys have it dialed in. I mean, when I think ISA teams that are absolutely just crushing it, that's Hatch over there. And you guys coach hundreds of teams on building out their ISA departments as well. So we want to dig into the numbers on that. You know, you guys have this, it seems like this core group of ISAs that are driving like 500 plus transactions for you, right? So really impressive numbers there that we're going to dive into. For anyone on the webinar, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. So feel free to hop in there, drop your questions. Brian, our CEO, will kind of be hosting this and asking some questions. If you have something that you want to ask, just drop it there in that Q&A or on the chat. We have some moderators behind the scenes too, so we can queue those up and get it going. Brian, time's yours. Let's get some insights.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to this, you guys. I've watched hundreds of teams start ISA teams and then kill them. And usually the ISAs all want to be agents, and it's just retraining. How do I keep somebody there? And so I guess my first question is, I'm guessing a lot of our listeners have started ISA teams and no longer have them because they failed. So, I mean, let's just start from there. How do I actually have some success with this? Because we've been told to do this so long, but it's not easy unless you know what you're doing. So what have we all done wrong?
Well, let's first off acknowledge this. I hope them killing off the ISAs were a figure of speech. Let's just start there. No, so let's acknowledge a truth. I think the biggest problem is that you know, in the ISA space, a lot of people have been viewing the role incorrectly. A lot of people think the ISA role, they do one of two things. They either view the role as very 8 to 5-ish. They view the role as being an 8 to 5 type job. And what I mean by that is they think that an ISA is going to come in, check in at 8:30, make calls, shoot texts, check out at 5 o'clock, be done with it. Not work nights and not work weekends. And Cody, tell me if that's the truth at all. Is that your truth?
No, it's I mean, this is a lifestyle. This is not a job. This isn't a career. I mean, you know, when you plant your flag, especially in our world, you know, it's 24/7, phones ringing, you're making outbounds, you're responding text, emails. I mean, it's all the time. So
Cody, you're talking about phones coming in 24/7. So what's your response time? I mean, that's a big problem with agents is somebody gets a hold of you, you might respond the next day. At that point, they've already signed a contract with somebody else. So what's the response time for you guys on ISAs?
3 minutes or less on average. Now, obviously, the caveat being is if we get somebody that comes in at 10 o'clock, usually we'll start at 7:30 in the morning. So usually we're beating agents out of bed anyway. So, you know, the short answer is 3 minutes or less, but I would say in less than a couple hours on average, you know, in those scenarios. So.
Okay. So any of you real estate team owners out there, imagine somebody being there to respond in 3 minutes or less every time. That way you're going to get the business, you're going to get an appointment set. It's a key factor in that whole process.
Well, and let's acknowledge that it's not just getting to things immediately when it's a new lead. And I saw someone said that I'm frozen, so hopefully I'm unfrozen. So it's not just responding to new leads, it's also responding to leads when they're calling you back, they're texting you back, because that's the reality, right? People keep confining it to an 8 to 5 type job, and we'll get to the second problem here in a moment. That's just wholly unrealistic if you want somebody to be an ISA that's going to crush it in your world. So that's the first pain point, right? The second pain point is they view the role as being a stepping stone to become an agent. And the problem with that is then you're consistently pressing restart inherently with the most important part of your business, which is lead generation and conversion. And you're turning opportunities over to someone that eventually will become too busy to do any of the work at all. And here's what you need to understand. With almost any online internet lead, the name of the game with lead conversion is all about follow-up. When we run the data on the amount of days from registration to close on our forced registration leads, the number is around 650 days, so almost 2 years. And people don't realize that PPC, forced registration leads, are a long-term game. Now, of course, an agent could convert the now business, but where you make money in this game is converting the long-term leads. And my favorite story that illustrates this point is about 4 or 5 months ago, we converted what was called a Tiger lead to close. And I don't know if any of you guys know this, but Tiger leads hasn't existed for 5 years. But because we continually chase it, because my ISAs, we organize everything. That's a whole webinar for a different day. But because we're consistently chasing the long-term business, playing that follow-up game, which is a lifestyle, as Cody had said, we're converting leads years upon years upon years down the road. And that's why that number keeps going up and up and up, because you convert one lead, what is it, 6 years later, 365 days, that increases that number a little bit. You know, basic math, I guess.
Okay, so just so our listeners know, can you guys give us just a high-level overview? How many ISAs do you have? How many transactions do you do? And you also own a coaching company that teaches people about this. So
yeah, so you do the numbers that, Cody, you talk the numbers, I'll talk about the coaching stuff.
Awesome. So currently we have 3 active ISAs in production, and we've recently welcomed what we're calling a client concierge, who's handling more of the past client reach out and database organization stuff. So not actively in our department, but not actively doing outbound sales calls or anything like that. So 3 active ISAs, averaging, Robbie, would you say 850 a year? I mean, year over year is pretty average.
Well, so I mean, this last year, we closed 640 some homes, and our ISA department usually is touching about 50 to 60%. And we ran into a problem that almost no one has in their business, where our agents started producing almost too much from their SOI. Our agents were producing 40, 50 deals from their SOI. And they became so overwhelmed with those opportunities that they didn't take full advantage of the stuff they were getting from our ISAs. Great problem to have, and we're trying to, you know, navigate that right now. But what it really comes down to is, you know, our model is so much different than everyone else, and I had to be very careful with how I say this. We send all leads to our ISAs. Every single lead that comes in, whether it's a seller form, buyer form, forced registration, Zillow, they chase all our expires. If we're chasing FSBOs, my ISAs are doing it. And you can't switch that overnight. You cannot, do not try doing it. It will fail, very, very quickly. And instead we had to build towards it. A really great analogy I like to describe, and I tell all my coaching clients this when you hire and hire an ISA, because this is foundational. You can't bring them in and turn all the easy stuff over to them. And you can't do that, because what happens is you create an entitled little monster. And everyone likes to say that that person's bad. Actually, if you see a spoiled child, it's almost never the child's fault. It's always mom and dad. And here's the thing is, if you're bringing in an ISA, and if you have agents that are taking leads and they're not making the calls because they're entitled, stop pointing the finger at them and start looking in the mirror. Because I almost guarantee what happened is this: you hired them and then you turn leads over to them right away. Our onboarding process is the opposite. First off, you got to go through some major hurdles to get into our world, including getting your license. We don't ever hire someone that traditionally has a license. They got to go and get it before they even start with our team as an ISA. But more importantly, they have to go through phases of calling the junk, the crap opportunities, are basically Cody's leftovers, to be completely frank, before they earn their way up to get the better stuff. And that's all phased out. We'll talk more about that later. But I describe it like this, right? The analogy is you need to treat a new ISA, and frankly, your agents when they're lead generating, because if you don't have an ISA, they're probably the ISA, or you are. And you want to have them come in, and the analogy is like this. You need to treat them like a new 15, 16-year-old driver. You need to stop giving the keys to a dang Range Rover to a 15 or 16-year-old. Because if they crash it and they treat it like crap, that's your fault. You knew that was going to happen. And more importantly, if you give the keys to a 15-year-old to a $100,000 Range Rover, you're going to create an entitled little monster. And that's your fault. It's not theirs. So we just do things much differently. The reason we know this is we failed, by the way. That's why, you know, the best lessons come when you fail. But we onboard them in that fashion to avoid creating that entitlement. And that's just one of the biggest things. Cody, you want to add to that at all?
So just a quick question around that. So one of the most important things is keeping your ISAs in the game, right? I mean, people churn those and churn those and churn those. So how do I, if I'm trying to hire an ISA, how do I hire somebody that's going to stay and that I let them know that's actually the most important job in the company? Instead of, I think most people kind of set it as that's kind of the bottom feeder and they can work their way up to an agent. So talk about that for a minute, Robby.
So the first thing I would say is this is traditionally someone that wants to be an ISA almost never voices at all in the hiring process that they want to be an agent. Like if I asked Cody, do you want to go and sell real estate? He would laugh at me. And you know what's funny? Cody, what do you know about real estate? Do you know a lot? Probably almost none.
You know, I've got MLS access, so I'd say I know a thing or two.
You can look something up, right?
I can check his estimate, so.
enough to be dangerous, right, Cody?
Exactly. You know, it's funny because if between Cody, Jim, and myself, we've sold 4 homes, I think. I've sold 2, Jim has sold 2, Cody, you've sold none, right? And he sold 1. So we're at 5 between us. We're the best ISA, probably trio out there. You know, between us, we've probably had, what, 1,600, 1,700 closings. And dude, I couldn't tell you anything about real estate. If I needed to sell my house right now, I would have 0 clue how to do a CMA. None. I don't even know where to start. So I think what I'm getting at is somebody that traditionally wants to sell real estate is not going to be someone that's going to be a great ISA. It's a totally different skill set. And the reason is you can see, Cody, do you want to move your camera around real quick and just show people what I like to jokingly call our ISA jail cells? Can you just kind of show them the inside of it?
You want the big tour here? I'm going to take you out to stand. I feel like I'm in auditioning for Real World here. So
this is cribs, bro.
Yeah, look at that. Got some books up there. What do we got over here? We got my whiteboards, some stuff. There's a clock. There's a clock I built this weekend. Fun fact. But that's it. That's the grand tour.
But the point is, it's literally like a 6x6 box. And Cody, you probably spend in a normal, COVID's kind of changing this, but you probably spend, what, 5-6 hours in that box making calls every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, for lack of a better term, living hell for someone that wants to be an agent, right? They love and crave social interaction, and you don't really get that in this role. Instead, you got to be very disciplined with your time. Now, the other big thing is, so outside not hiring an agent, like don't hire someone that wants to become an agent because the writing's on the wall, they're going to move out of the role. The next thing would be, you gotta pay an ISA in a way that actually would keep them in the role. Remember how we talked about how it's 8 to 5? A lot of people think, I'm gonna pay this person something like a top end $40,000, $50,000 a year. And we just told you they're probably working 50, 60, and if you're the first ISA, probably 70 hours a week, because eventually you're taking all these opportunities. There's no way you're gonna have any retention if that's the pay. So the way we do it is we pay our ISAs a small base salary, and then they get a portion of the commission on every single deal that they procure. They don't get paid on all deals, only on the deals that they procured for the team. They set the appointment for and handed it over to an agent. Does that make sense, Brian?
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's basically a small base salary, and they get a percentage of every deal that they are a part of.
Correct. And to add one more thing to that is, that percentage does not come out of the company cut. It would come out of the agent's cut directly, because the agent's not doing any lead generation on that. They're walking into an appointment from Cody or Jim or other Cody on our team. So they're paying for the ISA services essentially.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Great point. So make sure you're tracking that separately, and it's just as if they were to take some other free lead, right? So
correct.
Okay, awesome. So let's jump into lead measures versus lag measures and what that means. I mean, so many of us are so focused on really, what did I put under contract? What did I close? But how do I get to that, right? What are the activities that lead me there?
Yeah, so number one, everyone should go and buy the book 4DX. And I tell everyone you only need to read the first 100 pages. Because the second 100 pages are like the reincarnation of the first 100. But what 4DX really did was they studied really successful organizations. And they found a couple key things, right? And I'm going to burn through the first, 3 real quick. Well, maybe even all 4. The first thing, the first discipline of execution that they found among teams that executed really well was they focused on the wildly important. And really what their point was is if you are obsessed with 4, 5, 6 different things that you're trying to work on, you're going to achieve 0. Their point is focus on 1 or 2 key things. In our ISA world, the biggest thing you'll realize is the ISAs are 100% focused on getting to leads quickly and having conversations. All right. The second lead measure is, or the second thing that they talk about is focus on the lead measures, not just the leg measures. And everybody thinks I'm saying leg like a leg. I'm saying leg, and you can blame my accent. All right, LAG, leg measure. Really, the whole point of that is a lot of teams, like you said, Brian, obsess about how many closings, how much money are we going to make. And that's fun to know in the beginning to create the plan. But after that, it's frankly pointless to look at. From there, you need to break it down to what are the things that you can control every single day. And the long story short of it is they point out that a lead measure is directly influenceable. You can literally pull a lever and influence it. And you can't influence contacts. You can't influence appointments, closings, any of that. Frankly, the only thing you can directly influence is your effort. So calls and texts being made. That is what we are obsessed about, is how much effort is being put in. So we're constantly measuring that. And then the third thing is this, and you're all gonna love this, right? 4DX. You need to have a compelling scoreboard. You need to have a place where your numbers are going that can illustrate a story so you know who's winning instantly. Here's the pitch for Sisu, y'all. Right there. The book says so. But you need to have a compelling scoreboard that can instantly tell you what's going on. And you know what's one of the funniest things, Brian, is I have a lot of teams I coach. And I will ask them this question, and it blows my mind how many people can answer it. I will ask one ISA, do you know how many calls your other ISAs have made today? They have 0 clue, none. And in our world, we're the opposite. We're always trying to look and see and put right in front of our ISAs, where's Cody at in relation to the other ISAs? And the reason you want to do that is it raises the floor because nobody wants to take last, and it raises the ceiling because somebody wants to win. So it's constantly putting it, making it visible, and a lot of people don't look at that. They just completely don't have a scoreboard. They might have way better data than we did, but they don't ever look at it. And if you can't tell me, if you can't answer that question right now, right immediately, it's pointless. Don't even track the data, frankly. You got to be looking at it consistently.
So seeing it allows me to go compete. How do you guys visualize that? Or do you have it up on leaderboards, or is it the dashboard? How are you doing that in your offices?
So Cody, I want to tell the story of where we were, and then you tell us, or you tell where we're at now with Sisu. So the first origins of this, when I read 4DX, we basically, we would keep track on a written marker board. Yeah, that's ghetto is probably the best way to put it. It was not good. Then we got really advanced. We put in an Excel spreadsheet. Then we really stepped up our game. We put it in a GDoc so we could both influence it and see it change at the same time. And that's what we were using for a while. And it actually, frankly, it worked because we measured the main KPIs, calls, contacts, appointments set, follow-ups created, that sort of thing. Then Cody came along and he made what we call like an advanced version. Frankly, I don't even know how to use the thing. Like, it was way over my head because Cody is brilliant with GDocs, and I don't even know what program you use. And then he kind of took over from there. So we started there with basically an Excel sheet on steroids. And the big thing that we did then was we put the numbers side by side. So your numbers, you'd go in and you'd put your number in throughout the day, you'd be manually updating it. So it wasn't automatically updating. This is where a lot of people go wrong, is When something's always automated, you don't look at it. Not as much. Now Sisu is helping us solve some of that. But for the most part, we were manually updating how many dials we made, how many contacts, because when you manually updated and you're looking at that sheet, you're literally forced to see your numbers compared to your cohort, compared to your other ISAs. So it's frankly just a psychological hack to make it happen. And Cody, you take it from there, because you took the ball and ran with it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Robby kind of alluded to that. We had built out in Google Sheets, you know, a spreadsheet that was obviously our day-to-day competition and KPIs. And also where it was tracking appointments, was using a couple query sheets to, you know, make a lot of this stuff automatically update, which was nice for things like agent rotation, but it didn't necessarily give us what we need as far as actually visualizing our data, because we could see day to day. But if I wanted to see, okay, month over month, or how did Robby do, you know, in his second year in, you know, quarters 1 and 2 as compared to my brand new ISAs, it was very, very difficult for us to do that and kind of be able to do that analysis. And that's where Sisu really came in and scratched an itch for us. We had tried to use Google Data Studio for a while, and it just didn't really, you know, it just didn't, again, you know, it was just a lot of personal time that was being spent into something, and Sisu came in, and now we're able to just, you know, it's a couple clicks of a mouse, it's a search here, and we've got the data that we need. So that was a huge, huge relief for us, and really scratch an itch that I don't even really think we realized the severity of until we had it.
Yeah, I like to tell people Sisu made data keeping pretty. It was fun to look at, you know.
100%.
And easier. Like he said, we couldn't go and look at old stuff that easily. So it's pretty now.
Before starting Sisu, I got to spend hours and hours in spreadsheets trying to bring team data to daily, to weekly, to monthly, and it was a mess. So I feel your pain there, and that's actually how Sisu was born. So one of the things that we've done some research on is really by visualizing that, by putting that scoreboard up, whether it's leaderboards or dashboards, by having that scoreboard, now what does that do to impact? And I know we have data on this. We've done a lot of research that shows that typically that's about a 30% increase in production or productivity. So obviously Cody's going to make more phone calls if Cody's looking at that leaderboard and seeing that he's in third place, not first place. Mm-hmm. So what's been your results? What have you seen? How does that really impact the business?
So one of my favorite ones kind of along that same line has actually been conversations year to date. I don't know why that has become like the hill that us ISAs need to die on, but Jim and I just got at, he's like, well, how can it, is that structurally? It's got to be. I'm like, no, I'm just good at my job, Jim. You know, he's just getting irritated because I've just almost doubled his numbers. So it's those little things like that that are just amazing to be able to see. And then it just creates an obscene amount of competition. On the agent side, it's been a lot of fun to use the leaderboards and challenges too. Eric put out a challenge to all of our agents to go out and gather as many reviews in the month of April. It's now wrapped up, I think wraps up officially today. And the winner, if we got collectively over 1,000 reviews in that time, the winner with the most reviews was going to get $1,000. And being able to just put that up, you know, in our group trading room and see, okay, you know, here's number 1, 2, and 3, and you know, to watch that shift, like it's just been a blast. And then I think for agents to finally have an easy tool for them to come in and see, okay, you know, here's where I'm at goal-wise for the year. Here's what my pipeline looks like. You know, traditionally that was stuff that the ISAs, you know, did for them because we understood it a lot better. But now it's, you know, they have a tool where they can be held accountable to their own, you know, what they say are their own goals and what they say are their own, you know, conditions, because frankly, now you can track it, you can influence it. And, you know, it's not just me coming around as a sales manager and saying, okay, you know, Zach, where are we at here? You know, I'm seeing these numbers drop, and you're like, well, what do you mean? I thought I was having a great month, you know? So that's been a big one for us.
So Cody, that's really taking it to a new level. I mean, most agents, if I ask most agents today, I'll walk up and ask them, how many deals have you closed this year? Most don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. So you know exactly how many conversations you've had. Will you share with us all? How many conversations have you had this year, or how many did you do last year?
1 second here. I've got it up on a tab. I just want to make sure that, you know, I share this with Jim. So Jim Renfro, if you're watching, just a quick reminder. Let's take a look. Year to date, conversations. I'm at 1,473 to his 700. And then follow-ups created is another big one. That's, you know, for the month of March, I was at 154 to his 76. And year to date, 181 to, again, his 76. So.
But you're just looking at leaderboards where you're just looking at year-to-date leaderboards that you're seeing how you're all stacking up.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay. Do you guys usually look at that on a yearly or monthly basis?
Weekly.
Weekly basis. Okay.
Weekly. Yeah, it's been a huge, because it's easy to kind of, you know, when we're looking at our spreadsheet and we see day to day, you know, I can kind of get a feel as to where, you know, where's Jim at, where, you know, and Jim's looking and seeing where I'm at. And, you know, we can kind of celebrate each other that way, but sometimes it's a little harder to see those, you know, you can see it during the week, but, you know, month over month, you know, where is that trend line going? And so it's been really fun to just have a quick place where we can go check and be like, oh yeah, I'm still on top here, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a really fun competition piece.
Okay. Awesome.
As you can tell, there's no friendly competition between our ISAs, none.
Cody, can I share I could share my screen here and show those dashboards real quick if you're.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that going to be too much of a dagger to Jim, or do you think we're all right?
Put him out of his misery.
You all right? Okay.
He quits. This is your fault.
There
I'm
you
not
go.
hopping back into production, dude. You got this.
So we got those, you know, and this is something that can be put right up on that big screen, right? So we got leaderboards here, and then I could flip over. I think the other one you were talking about was the follow-ups year to date, right? So that's kind of where, and you can set it up on some kind of like rotating display. These numbers are always in there. So.
And that's actually the funny thing is we had to pull out a bunch of our data a couple months ago because we had some sort of transfer issue between CTE and that we had to correct. So this is actually not even, this is like from mid-February to the date. So
very cool. Yeah, this is sweet.
I love it.
Anyways, wanted to show that because I thought it looked cool visually. So.
Yeah.
I told you, y'all made data pretty again.
That's fantastic. I love it.
So just before we jump into Q&A, you guys, I mean, what are some of the other key things? Is there something that we haven't hit that's vital for somebody building an ISA team?
Oh man, well, I mean, the biggest thing is in addition to everything we've talked about it, you know, we track everything. We also have standards, and you know, it's really funny because the standards conversation really is very applicable right now because we're in really unique times. And, you know, we've always had our standards. If you want to write them down or somebody wants to type it in the notes, the chat, our standard is 250 dials per day. This is normally 250 dials per day or 25 contacts or 2 quality appointments. And here's why we always use the term or between it is we always look to see what the story is of someone's daily numbers. Because there's going to be days, both Cody and I have had days where we've made 1,000 or darn near 1,000 calls, spoke to a ton of people, 40, 50 people, and set 0 appointments. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that I didn't hit standard that day, you do not understand how this game works. Because this game's all about the effort you put in. And frankly, I'm always more proud of days where our ISAs grind and grind and grind and put that work in and have no results, because that's the true work ethic that you need to see in an ISA. Somebody that steps up, and don't get me wrong, you kind of feel defeated that day. But what's crazy is then you'll have days, a week, 2 weeks later, where you make 42 calls, you set 7 appointments. And it almost always happens because you had those days where you did the work. But anyway, so 250 dials or 25 contacts or 2 quality appointments. And you know, I asked Cody a question, and people keep asking me as a coach, what are you guys doing differently when it comes to lead conversion? And I'll address one side. In terms of the approach on our calls, we always come from curiosity and we don't ever push or sell. Ever. I don't believe in it. I will never do it. And if you're doing that right now, you're in a world of hurt because people are hurting, they're emotional, they're scared. You need to be calling, building connections, and that will lead to you putting people in your pipeline. And eventually, I promise you, when we get past all this, it will pay off. Some people have been saying, throw the script out the window. What I like to say is, why is it in the window to begin with? It doesn't need to be there. Now, the other thing is, people keep asking, how are you changing your standards? And that's where I'm going to punt to Cody here, because I literally asked him, I said, Cody, how are we changing our standards? What are we doing differently?
Yeah, so honestly, really not a lot has changed for us. As far as the, our day-to-day standards, really the only things that we've changed is we added, we actually made the standards a little bit harder. So we, said, hey, we're going to continue to do 250 calls a day, but we're also going to add 5 to 10 expired calls a day. We're going to continue to work hard to hit those listings, and maybe some of the things that get lost or get put on the back burner a little bit because of incoming, because of, all this other stuff. And, we just upped our own accountability and said, if you're not hitting your 5 daily to, so 25 weekly expired calls, you're going to miss out on come list me's, you're going to get a skip. And then, on the other side with, our 250 calls a day, if you're not hitting that weekly, then we're going to do a come by me skip. So you're going to lose out on the gimmies if you're not putting in the reps day in, day out.
So Robby, I love you brought up the standards. I think in this environment with COVID-19, there's all kinds of questions. Sitting there watching everything. Some people are more focused than they've ever been and have increased their standards. And some people have decided, I'm just going to sit and watch TV every day and see what's going to happen here. And I think this is an opportunity where those who are excelling are going to take market share. And a lot of those who are not focused right now won't be around when this ends up. So what else can we do during this time while let's address that, because I'm sure a lot of listeners on here have questions about that. What else can we be doing? What are you seeing as far as results? And I know it's different everywhere in the country, but when you're calling, how are people responding? Are people still interested? Are you just letting them know, hey, you know what? People are still buying and selling homes, and is it a little softer approach? What are you doing differently along those lines?
Cody, I'll take the first shot at this, and then I'll hand it over to you. So I'll take 10,000 foot view, and then you zoom in, because you do this all the time. So here's my fundamental truth that I believe is that we are in the midst of one of the greatest lead generation opportunities I've ever seen. And I believe that for 2 key reasons, okay? First off, there are a ton of real estate professionals that have become a bear and are hibernating. They're not doing the work. They're not reaching out to people. They might even have leads coming in, and they're not doing the work, all right? So most people are disappearing. But the other key thing is this, is that we have seen the contact rate with people skyrocket to points that number. I asked Cody, what is our contact rate on attempts so far today? And he said 38%. That is stupid. That number is dumb. I have not seen a number like that, frankly, in a long time. And these are not calling like super, great leads. We're calling through some old stuff as well that we've called before. So contact rates are up. And it's simply because of this. This is why we're in the midst of one of the greatest lead generation opportunities, is people are stuck at home. All right. People are afraid. People are scared. We need to acknowledge that. And we're not calling, and Cody will talk about this a little bit more, we're not calling to push people at all. The first question I think Cody's going to share that he's asking is, I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And then from there, we're not trying to get them to do something now. We're checking to see, before all this craziness, what were you hoping to do? Or once we get past all this stuff, what are you thinking about doing? If you're trying to talk about now, for 90% of people, you're going to turn people off because they're scared. There's furloughs. They're afraid of maybe the illness. There's a ton of anxiety out there right now. And it's causing most professionals to hibernate, freeze. And like you said, Brian, this is an opportunity for those to get stronger if they choose to, or you're going to see a lot of people get left behind. And that's truly a choice. Yep. I've been shocked. I thought we were going to see our appointments plummet down to almost nothing. And I think our ISA department said, what are you at so far this week, Cody? What's that number?
Sorry, muted there. 14.
14 appointments. I thought this would drop down to almost nothing. All right, we're halfway to standard, right? If you remember the standard of appointments, 2 a day, 10 a week, 3 ISAs, 30. We're halfway, and we're 3 days into the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're frankly ahead of pace. So people are still wanting to do something. Some of those are probably Zoom appointments. And obviously every market's a little bit different. We're not in New York City where things are really out there, but I'm even acknowledging and pushing people, just call and check in and see how people are doing. This is a time to be human, to connect with people, care about people, and frankly, you should be doing that all the time anyway. So for us, this has just been a reminder that our philosophy always works, that us having standards always works, and we're just doubling down on it. And Cody, you want to add to that?
Well, one thing to add to that, Robby, is, I mean, you're actually sharpening your skills, right? Because putting the people first is what we should always be doing, right? And we're just going back to the basics and focusing on people rather than focusing on appointments. So great. I love hearing that. I hope everybody listening is just motivated by that, because it's definitely an opportunity right now. Cody, you want to drill down in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this entire, we've talked about it in Convert. I know Robby's talked about it with his coaching clients, but what it comes down to is, I think in this climate, people think that, oh, I've got to shift my business. I have to change. We have to do a 180. This entire, and I call it an opportunity, this COVID opportunity is not a test of how quickly you can pivot or how smart you can pivot. This is a test of the behaviors and the actions you were doing 6 to 8 months ago. And if you're hurting right now, which everybody's hurting to some degree, but if you're really, really hurting, you really need to evaluate how you're approaching people. I mean, Robby hit it straight on the head. Is, we're here to connect with people. And it doesn't matter if they're selling today, tomorrow, 5 years from now. To give you a great example, I just set an appointment last week. And I was going through and I was putting in the notes, and this was a random Zillow appointment, and she was looking at, a home that below 100,000, but, it's something that frankly, and some people might turn their nose up at, in the busier season, but, the Zillow appointment came through, and I went through and I was updating notes, and I looked, and she had been in our system. And I talked to her in October 17th of 2017. She was one of the first clients I ever talked to, actually, so it's just very funny the way that the market keeps moving. People still need to buy, people still need to sell. But at the end of the day, you need to be taking care of people. You need to be approaching people where they're at. And you're going to find that the more people that you approach and care about and show that you're authentic in caring about them right now, that turns into business tenfold, in a couple months, whenever this whole thing's over. So.
Yeah, and I keep describing it like this. Nobody knows when this will end. Don't let it fool you. It could be 30, 60, 90, 180 days, but I promise you, eventually we'll get past this. It's how it always works. And we're raising the floor right now, and we're raising our ceiling. Like it's right now, I keep hearing from my ISAs, they're finding 5, 6 really incredible follow-ups that they're putting in their pipeline every single day. And those are the people that are going to pop off the moment this starts to feel like we're getting past this. So frankly, we're taking advantage of this opportunity. We're not going to hibernate. It's scary, but you can't show courage unless there's fear, right? People think that fear or courage is the absence of fear. You can only be courageous when you're kind of scared, and I think all of us are, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but this is a time to step up, to be courageous, to step up, double your effort, triple your listening, and quadruple down on empathy. And frankly, when we get out of this, do the same things. It's not any different. Humans are humans, so I get a little excited about this conversion stuff.
I think you just indicated, and I feel the same way, when this ends, let's just 60, 80, 90, whatever, when this ends, could be the biggest real estate boom ever, right? I mean, who knows what's going to happen and how many people are going to want to sell at that point.
It will be a boom for those that make it a boom, without a doubt. There will be others that are like, how are all these other people busy? And it's going to be because we were making the calls when you were watching Tiger King. We were making the calls and shooting the texts when you were watching Ozark. Don't get me wrong, I watch both. But at nighttime when I'm done working, right? And that's going to be the difference is, are you doing the work? Here's the thing is, most agents or ISAs, you're seeing your production cut down right now. You're probably seeing it cut down at least 50%, no matter what market you're in. Some people 80, 90%, and they're taking that, 30, 40, 50 hours a week, and they're doing nothing with it except going home. and replace it. Replace half the time with generation. And what's great is you will build confidence because you're going to have really great conversations. The fear will disappear when you start realizing, holy crap, I got this crazy pipeline I got to see cash out at some point. And that fear will start to disappear. I think that's what Cody and Jim, we were kind of afraid. And I think we've seen like, no, this is going to be all right. We're just going to keep pushing forward. So
Yeah.
go take some action.
I love it. You guys are awesome. We'll start off with questions. Let's move into questions, and I'm going to start with the first.
Yeah.
And that you haven't really shared much about your coaching company, but I want you to coach me on how to build an ISA team now. So you guys have any special offers you'll give me on that?
Yeah. So first off, anytime you have any questions, shoot me a direct message. Look up Robby T on Facebook. Go join Leads Geeks, LEADS space GEEKS. We're posting conversion stuff all the time. But the big thing we wanted to offer to everyone is go get signed up for Convert. Long story short, we created what we're calling the Netflix of lead conversion. And we're putting new content in there weekly, 5 to 15-minute videos where we teach our approach. We teach you to be better listeners. We challenge you to be, frankly, better lead converters. And it costs like $20 a month. It's super cheap. And it's month to month. So if you don't like it, cancel it. You know, I don't care. But go to hatchcoaching.com, check that out. Have your team sign up for it. I promise you'll be better, you know, better than your Netflix subscription. Maybe we'll make a Tiger King spin-off in lead conversion. We have some crazy stories we could put in there. But check that out. And if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we don't get to, because sometimes there's questions after this, make sure that you reach out to me directly. Shoot me a message. That's what I'm here for. I geek out about this stuff. That's why I call myself the lead geek, because it's authentically me.
The Netflix of lead conversion is huge. So I'm going to sign up for that just so that I can be aware as to what's going on there. So thanks.
Yeah, don't tell Netflix I'm using them in my promo materials. I don't want to get
This is Frank from behind the scenes. Let's make sure if we can to kind of go. We've got a big list of questions that have piled up.
For sure.
So maybe Brian or Zach, if you want to read through those, we'll just go down one by one until we get them addressed, and then we'll make sure we throw out a coupon code for CSU as well. We have a special promotion. So.
Cool.
Okay, we'll start. I'm going to combine one that is kind of the same question twice from Greg and Ali, talking about lead source conversion, where to spend your money. Greg's asking, are you looking at that? What time frame are you looking at that over? Because you have leads that, you know, convert 5 years later. How do you measure the ROI there? And, you know, I don't think there's a cut and stone answer, but maybe how do you guys run that? It's a difficult problem, right? So.
Yeah, it's a really tough question to answer. I like to break leads up like this. You basically, for the most part, when you're buying leads, you have forced registration leads, which tend to be PPC. Those tend to be longer converting leads. And for us, our experience is we convert about 1% per year for 4 years, give or take, to close, if you're playing the follow-up game right. Our conversion caps out about 4 or 5% on that. But again, it takes years, right? That's why, you know, a lot of the stuff we're converting is old pay-per-click leads. Zillow is more of the quick hit, right? It's 180 days. We convert Zillow probably around 10%, maybe a little bit higher, something like that, Cody. We also have our ISAs chase, you know, any leftover open house leads from our agents, expireds and canceled. I couldn't even tell you what the conversion numbers on that. I don't even have it in front of me. Maybe we can look it up later. But it's a grab bag of different things. I think the big thing we've learned is we take the long-term infinite approach, to steal from Simon Sinek, with leads. And the only way, this is going to sound really like a cop-out, but it's the only way for us to ever learn our to shut off the spigot of all lead sources and let it play out for years. And that's because we're playing that long-term game that nobody else is. Like, I could go in and Cody probably has about 500, 700, 1,000 follow-ups with old leads that are going to convert out. And we don't have to buy anymore to make that happen. Now, I think we'd be fools, because it's kind of, if you want to grow, we keep buying more stuff, although we trimmed our budget during all this as well. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know the full true lead conversion. All I can tell you is when you convert a Tiger lead 5-6 years later, your conversion rate goes up on it.
Yeah. I think, it's important to know with each lead source, what game are you playing? You're playing a long-term game there, you're playing a short-term game. And I know Zillow, you mentioned, is a short-term game, and a lot of our people who are tracking that, I mean, they are down to the decimal point on conversion there, really just tracking it at a high level, because you're playing a short-term game, you're paying a lot of money for it, right? So,
100%.
yeah.
And I think kind of following in on that thread as well, you need to understand the capacity of your ISA team. The ISA department here, we can comfortably do about 250 leads per month per ISA. And obviously when you're looking at, scale, PPC is going to make up a lot of that, but you also have to determine, month over month where your budget is, what your market cycles look like. So that's a hard question to answer, but, I think Robby kind of hit it on the head.
Okay, two questions, couple questions came in around this. Is there an issue with commission splitting in my state that is illegal, from Kyle? And Brian Knox on Facebook was also saying, how do you deal with RESPA issues? So
this is why we have our ISAs get licensed.
Okay.
Handles all of it right there. You can basically, when somebody has their license, here's the thing is, them getting licensed really has very little to do with them gaining real estate knowledge. It has everything to do with, it's a really big obstacle to overcome. I've told people one of the greatest things I've learned about hiring people, period, in a production-based role is throw obstacles like crazy in front of people, all right? Because here's what you'll find out is, if you ask most people, are you resourceful? Do you got grit? Are you going to overcome things? They all say that they'll do it. Then you throw some obstacles in front of people, and 9 out of 10 turn around or stop, right? It's why you're seeing all the people going to hibernation right now. Resistance, right? It's an obstacle. What we want is, we want the people that they're going to do one of four things. They're going to go over the obstacle, underneath it, around it, or they're going to run right damn through that thing. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but they get to the other side of the obstacle. So for us, the capstone of them joining our squad, because we want to protect what we've built and our culture, is it's a tough hill. You got to go get your license. And that's on them. They got to pay for it. It's 100% on them. It's their license, and it protects us legally on top of everything as well. When we deviated from that, we have been slapped in the face, all right? And it has saved us a few times of filtering people out that couldn't get their license, that sort of thing. So go get them licensed. It takes care of all your issues. You can give them a decimal point on anything they want, because they're a licensed person, almost in every single state. So.
Couple questions on the turnover from ISA to agent, and it sounds like with you guys there, it's not even really an option to go ISA from agent, or how does that work?
We've never had an ISA move into an agent in our role. We had one ISA recently that was an ISA and became an agent on a different team. That's the only time it's ever happened. Other than that, no.
But my experience has been, when people move agents or ISAs into agents, and that's like their cycle, their ISA department usually shuts down.
Right. You're pressing restart on lead generation. You will never get high levels of lead conversion and lead generation if you are constantly restarting. And agents, people pick on agents about why they're not good at lead generation. I actually don't think it's really their fault. They're not built to make calls to unknown people. They don't like rejection for the most part. So we're hiring the wrong personality. But the other thing is this is, what do you expect them to do the moment they get busy with their now business? Do you think they're going to go and make 250 dials? Come on, let's quit living in fantasy land. Like, this isn't Disney World, all right? We got to talk realities. You can't expect them to be really good at something. So it's a systemic issue. If you're expecting your agents to be really great at lead generation and produce really well, one thing is going to give almost always. And it's a systemic problem. And that's why we've gone our route of sending everything to our ISAs, is to avoid that systemic issue.
And if that was your mentality, is I'm going to move them into agents, what you're going to find is, once they get good, you're turning them into an agent. And so you're never generating true ISA leads, right? You're never going to be effective with that.
Correct, exactly. Real ISAs begin to crush it when they're a year into the role. That's when things become really lucrative and become a lot easier for them, because they have a pipeline that they watch cash out.
You guys, Robby, you guys have, you have your ISA department nailed. You have the right people in there, and it's, it's scaling for you. What do you tell people who are, they maybe hire someone and it doesn't work out and they're looking for someone else? I mean, is it just staying patient, throwing obstacles, or, you know, how do you hire for that, right? It sounds like you're looking for like this golden person, right?
We are. Yes, we are. Exactly. You should always be looking for golden people. Like this is what drives me insane. Is people thinking you can go hire someone after knowing them for an hour and in 1 week have them come in, not have their license, and you think they're going to come in and make you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, what world are we living in, friends? Here's the truth, right? I mean, anyone that's on here that's married will understand this, is you date someone a long time before you get engaged, traditionally, and then you're engaged for a while before you get married. Yet what's crazy is a lot of people's hiring process, they'll come in and they'll hire someone after knowing them for an hour. And for us, we have a whole 9-step hiring process. It takes a long time. There's a lot of hoops and hurdles, again, obstacles you got to overcome. And the funny thing is, I've always said this, is when you're hiring, you got to pay this person, right? Like you got to pay them and you got to spend as much time with them as you do your family. And we're very selective of who we want to marry. You should be just as selective of who you're bringing into your world that you got to pay for harmony's sake. So yeah, we are 100% looking for that right person. If we want to hire someone, it takes us 6 months. We want to hire an ISA, 6 months from now, we needed to start late last year, if we're lucky. When we have candidates come in, we usually, if we're lucky, out of 100 people, we have 1 good, maybe 2 really good prospects that might be a good fit, give or take. So it's an arduous process, and you got to slow down. Everybody's hiring because they're trying to do it quick. And for us, it's all about slowing down to get the right person.
Great feedback. Couple other questions here on the numbers. Your standard 250 dials per day per ISA, correct?
Yep.
Work days, right?
250 dials or 25 contacts or 2 quality appointments.
Okay.
Again, if you set 5 appointments and you didn't hit 250 dials, I don't care. Like it's tougher to hit 250 dials when you've contacted people or you've set a lot of appointments, because those things eat up time. You know, it takes about a half an hour if you're having a good conversation, setting a good appointment with someone, it eats up your time in the day. So that is the key of saying or, and people lose out on that. I have coaching clients that I will say this, I will have them circle and they'll forget that the or is there. And I'm like, my ISA isn't setting, they're not 2 appointments yet. I'm like, are they hitting the effort? Are we seeing that? It's or, you got to be looking at both. You want to see the story of their numbers. That's what matters. And
dialers, using a dialer.
Yeah, we were. Don't really need it when people are answering the phone like this. Truly, like it's, people don't answer the phone. People are answering the phone and it's constantly hanging up on people. Don't use a dialer. It's that simple. Yeah. The whole point of it is cut out the dead time.
Okay, cool. A couple questions here on that. So use a dialer. You send a text right away if you don't get them. It's kind of like tactical stuff as you're working through these leads, maybe.
Yeah, we try to call right away, and then if they don't answer, we send a text and email, and then they get another text 6 minutes later. Before all this COVID craziness, we were contacting within about 10 days. We were contacting about 60% of leads via text only, and that's actually gone up. We're still contacting a lot of people via text. We changed all of our plans, by the way, from being less focused on now and acknowledging that craziness is going on, which I would highly suggest that you do. And we rolled that out. We released our messages for our Hatch messaging users, and people pay us for that through Sierra. And we did that for all of them as well, because if you're just sending something like, hey, you're thinking about buying a home in the near future, without acknowledging that the world's crazy, you seem out of touch. So we really changed everything up, and the ISAs have said it's worked pretty well to start conversations. So
cool. If I want to buy Convert for my team, what does that look like?
Go to hatchcoaching.com and get them registered. Sign up sign up yourself, and then have your other team members sign up. Again, it's cancel any points. Frankly, tell us what content you want in there, and we're pretty liberal in taking those suggestions and going and adding it in there. The great part is, I don't have to do this. I'm not boots on the ground anymore. I'm more 10,000 foot view. And then Cody and Jim are literally on the ground doing this. So between all 3 of us, we have a really great experience. Like, I geek out about this stuff. I study it way too much. And then Cody and Jim are crushing it on the phones and doing it. And we try to merge all that together to give you a really holistic perspective of what the heck's going on out there and giving you relevant information. Like we released COVID stuff 10 days ago in Convert. So
cool. I think we're good on one more question. What constitutes an appointment? If I say, when I get a set, is that a time on the calendar with an agent? What does that look like?
it is going out and just showing a home. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay.
So we define a quality appointment as somebody we've spoken to in depth, probably for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And we're now getting them connected with one of our agents to help them potentially buy or sell a home. For most of our appointments, it's an in-office consultation. Again, COVID, throwing a wrench into that. Some of it's going to be a little more Zoom-based during this time, but it's not this, hey, we'll go show you a house at 123 Main Street, which have fun with that approach right now. Instead, it's, learning what they need, want, desire, and connecting them with somebody that can help them get that. Whether it's a Zoom appointment, for us, in the most part, it's usually in-office consultations with our agents to really just talk about the game plan and help them get what they want.
Hey, Zach, this is Frank. I don't know, I was managing another chat bot, but we have 4 queued up in the Q&A if you haven't got to those.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just have Zach go through those if you didn't go through
Yeah,
those.
we've worked through most of those. There's a couple on lead routing. It sounds like you route everything through your ISA.
Yeah.
Do the agents even see those leads, or at what point do they see those leads?
They see them when it comes in as an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
So
by the way,
at the same time, the agents are actually working to create their own leads at the same time, right? So.
Oh gosh, Brian, thank you. I almost forgot this. Holy shnikes, Brian, you're a genius. That's why you're here, my man. So if everybody hears that we don't give leads to my agents, and they have this stupid notion that my agents don't lead generate. No, they lead generate to their friends, their family, open houses, their SOI and past clients. All right. And we don't hire agents. We could do a whole nother webinar on this, but we only hire agents. I shouldn't say that. We only hire partners or junior partners in our world. So you come in and you got to earn the right to get really great opportunities from the ISAs. It's not just handed to you. And again, we got very high standards. Basically, you got to be bringing in, was it 12 or 13 pieces of business from your SOI, Cody, before you get stuff from the ISAs and graduate up. So
actually, no, it's 20 now.
I like that even better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how we do it. Again, that's a conversation for another day. But our agents are lead generating, and the average number of SOI deals our agents brought in last year was probably around 25-ish, Cody, maybe 30.
Yep.
And we've even had some bump into the 50, 60 number. Again, it created some problems because those people were so busy with all that they couldn't properly serve the ISA stuff. Really good problem.
Robby, those are huge numbers, 25 just from their ISA. So what is your average agent with the ISA stuff? What is your average agent doing?
Buyer agents, around 60, Cody? 65, and then listing agents right under 100, probably right around 90, 95.
So everybody is now just blown away because those are numbers that are just unheard of, right? That's unprecedented. So again, you guys, if you want to learn how to get your agents to averaging 60 to 100 transactions, reach out to these guys, learn more about it because it works.
Well, our whole model is built on the idea of what Henry Ford talked about of leverage and specialization. My ISAs don't want to sell homes. My agents don't want to be ISAs. They don't want to lead generate like they do. They want to talk to their friends or family. And, then we have our support team, transaction coordinators. We've just really broken up the real estate transaction as much as we can. And we keep trying, breaking things, but we're very leveraged and we get a ton of support. Know that our agents also have partners that help them hit those numbers they pay for. But if you want to talk about a really great paid internship, it's our showing partner model. But with all that being said, it's all about leverage and specialization is really the biggest thing. Do more of what you love doing, and naturally people last longer, they're happier, they want to stick with it as opposed to churning every 2 minutes. So.
Cool. I think we knocked off most of the questions there. Can always head over to coaching if you want to get more information. I didn't even mention this. We are doing a promotion on a Sisu trial if you're looking to track your numbers, how these guys do. Sisu.co/trial. I dropped it in the chat. If you use the Hatch coupon code, that's going to get you a couple of things. Free white label, so we'll make your, put your own logos and colors and make it look like your own piece of software. You get a trial till the end of April, where normally we do a 7-day trial. So check that out. We'll, if you're on Sierra, I actually get this a lot. A lot of people using Sierra, and they say, yeah, I use Sierra. I kind of have it set up how Hatch does. And I say, all right, we're just going to get you the Hatch special. We'll just set up the same automation and everything. So go ahead and reach out. And great having you guys today. Big thanks for joining us. This was
a pleasure.
Insightful.
For sure.
Yeah, Robby, Cody, thank you both so much.
You're welcome. Make sure to give me one of those hats, Zach.
Yep, it's on its way, right? Right, Frank? We're going to shoot one of those out.
Yeah, let's. I think Brian has the box of hats. So
yeah.
And last thought, if you have any other questions, reach out to me directly. Robby T, search for me, and would love to answer any questions you have.
The lead geek.
You're the lead geek, the nerd. All right, friends. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, you guys.
Take care.